That white boy who has never dated a black girl before but says you're the exception is not your man. And you need to run as soon as you hear that. As somebody who's been through this myself, I'm a black girl. I grew up in the suburbs. It's only my duty to warn you guys before you make the same mistake. I grew up not being desired by most men. In fact, most of my bullies ended up being other black boys. So naturally, I shut off my love life. Up until I came into college and I was like, wait a minute. I'm not ugly. There are actually men out there who like me and think that I'm attractive. Who would have thought? Let's just say that led me to be very naive. If I can go back to my 18-year-old self, I would tell her, do not listen to a single word that comes out of a man's mouth. Because most of the time, men will tell you what you want to hear. With that being said, I mean, it's great being desired, but it's another thing being lusted over. I'm telling you this because I wish someone told me this. Literally, I've been getting so many questions about college because I always make videos about stuff like this, and I just want to tell you guys, this is so important. Understand your value and your worth, and please do not let some bum tell you that you're an exception. You should never be an exception. Okay, I pull up. How about at the after party? You and all your friends say they love you naughty. Sipping on it, and I know you love the party. They say 42, I take you back in the Rari. Okay, I pull up. How about at the after party?
I'm gonna do something I usually don't do, or I do it very piecemeal. Whatnot. I'm gonna share a personal anecdote, plural anecdotes. I'm gonna share a few. Back in the day when I was living in the West Coast, one of my friends, I was having a crash out day, and one of my friends, it was a white guy. These are homies, okay? They decided to take me out with them to a club, okay? That was a notorious club in mid city. They were usually I was going with him. He was filming the bands, and sometimes he'd film like punk bands and the mosh pit and stuff like that. And he had an expensive digital camera, and he would squat down or get on his knee, take a knee, and I would stand over him and bat away the objects that were being thrown. Pretty crazy. And to show you how much glass jaw, lightweight motherfucker, posers. A lot of times some of the guys doing that shit would look over at me and say, "Oh, sorry, brother. Sorry, brother." So, getting to the point. I was at this club, right? Mid city, very near Hollywood, right? Right off of Vermont. I was at this club and I was in there and I was having a crash out day, right? Some personal shit. So my friends were encouraging me. They say, "Hey, why don't you get in a mosh pit and, rage out and shit?" That's like, "I've never had that experience." That's like, "You think it's safe?" I said, "Don't worry." They said, "Don't worry, just get in there, bro. Just feel the energy," right? So, I thought about doing, I got to the edge of the mosh pit circle and went into the bitch, and nobody would do any of the mosh pit shit. Nobody was bumping or throwing hands or elbows, any of that shit, if you know what that is. And it was funny. And, while I was there, I happened to look over. It was mostly Caucasian, Latino people, maybe an Asian or two, but mostly majority Caucasian, the rest Latino and very small contingent Asian or other. I happened to look over and I seen this black chick, right? She had a fishtail mohawk, like the giant ones and shit. She looked like motherfucking Storm from the X-Men, if anybody knows that look. One of the looks she had a gigantic purple fish mohawk. Otherwise, she was bald, and she was skinny, and she had these big googly fucking eyes, and she was not my type at all. And I think she had like a number of piercings in her face, including her lip, nose, and ears, and God knows where else and shit. But she was like a ragamuffin. She was jacked up. I don't want to call her ragamuffin. That's wrong. She was busted. Okay, so I looked over in her direction, just happenstance, and she did the same. And I kid you not, the bitch mouth fuck. That's what she mouthed and shit. She looked like deer caught in the headlights did. Like I was looking at her and shit. Okay, I'm not a scary guy. Okay, my true countenance and shit is I'm very approachable with shit to some people until they start talking to me. Anyway, she looked dead at me, and I looked at her, and she mouthed like fuck, right, and looked really worried. And one of her hands came up to her flaccid chest, you know. One of her hands came up and covered her, the right above her where her boobs were. But then she was wearing like a vest or some kind of mesh top that she didn't have anything on under that shit. You could see that she had some deflated flapjack looking. This chick had to been like probably 22 or something. She raises her hand and puts it over her fucking chest and looks shocked, and then gets lost in the crowd, like somebody was chasing her. Like I was the Terminator from that 1984 movie, that first Terminator. She looked like I was Arnold and shit. She was fucking Sarah Connor. She disappeared and shit. Not just I was so fucking insulted and shit. I was so insulted. I knew exactly what the fuck was going on and shit. I'm gonna keep going. Okay, went to a party. I went to a party out near UCLA. Where I went to a party in this skyscraper restaurant, and there was a coon there, a coon, Larry Elder Jr. You know, a straight up coon. Right, I was walking, and the motherfucker, he never seen me a day before in his life, and the motherfucker said, he said, "Oh look, it's Wesley Snipes. Is this Wesley Snipes?" Like, I'm a medium, I don't look like Wesley fucking Snipes, okay? I'm a medium black person and shit, just a regular guy. Don't want to say any more, for obvious reasons. You know, I got many haters and I'm shadow banned to death. But, you know, I was so pissed off when I heard that shit. He was sitting between two white guys. One guy looked kind of sus. He was sitting there, they had like, they were niddling and, you know, giggling like nerd, you know, nerd people or something. They were like, goo, 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 after he said that, and had slapping hands and shit. So the motherfucker made the mistake of getting up and going into the restroom. So I went in the restroom behind him. Now, I want to keep in mind, I'm from the south side of Chicago and shit, and I was non-select for most of my life, and I have a victim card and shit. I have victim points and shit. All the times I got rolled back. The Black Gangster Disciples, the Peastone Rangers, threatened by the Latin Kings, shit like that. I've had run-ins with various street toughs and shit, not to where I did not win. I was rolled many times. I would never think of doing something like this. If this guy pissed me off, I wasn't bothering him. And my associate was a big ass, you know, nerd, big, tall, you know, Klondike barber nerd. He wasn't gonna have my back, and I was just pissed hearing that shit. I went in that fucking bathroom when he was in the stall, and I stood by and I said, "Hey, man," I said, "Man, what you mean by the Wesley Snipes shit?" I said, "I'm right here." I said, "Turn around facing me, motherfucker." I didn't care if his dick was out or not. I was about to bust him up. I was about to chunk him out and put his face in that urinal. And he just turned around and looked at me. He looked scared as fuck. And I'm not so like, I'm non-threatening, but this motherfucker looks scared as fuck. We're about the same height, and he's a little bit, has more weight on me. And he's just like, "Excuse me, man." And he got out real quick, and then later on my friend was trying to chide me for that aggressive behavior, and I just had a resting bitch face if I must, you know, have any form of, you know, I'm just admitting it, you know. And, you know, it's one of my experiences in the West Coast, you know, one of, you know, myriad experiences and shit. You know, I am a straight black man and shit, and we carry a lot of weight and shit, you know, people's negative expectations. Sometimes you get caught off the rip and you live down or up to them, depending on the situation. A lot of times, like when I was at work, I had you know, some woman that's not my type, but she shares my ethnicity, aggressively pursuing me and shit, and trying to get in between me and someone I'm talking to and shit. All right, trying to aggressively pursue me. And you know, there's been times where I've been places and I've seen other black people that they're quote unquote the token black, and I'm encroaching on their territory and shit. And it get bent as fuck, right? Get bent as fuck. You know, it's like I became non-post about it and shit. My personality made people gravitate towards me, right? But I'll never forget the feeling that you get when you see one of these some quote unquote people that have been in white spaces too long and shit, have grown up there and stayed there and shit, and just accepted their role as a, you know, playing the background and shit. And yeah, I don't have no problem with that shit. I just have a problem with the throwing shade, all right? Which gets into this TikTok video. All right, finally we reached the subject of this TikTok video, okay? And this young lady is talking about, you know, her situation growing up in white spaces and how she feels, and it's pathetic. Right? I find her pathetic and shit. She doesn't She doesn't. She's a young girl in school and shit in Atlanta for some reason. I was like, why don't you go somewhere where there's majority white people so you can feel comfortable playing the background and being non-threatening and all that other bullshit. And you know, it was not lost on me that right in the middle of the video she said that most of it because she was not considered attractive because of her ethnicity. I'm assuming her skin color. I'm assuming that a lot of the guys she was actually dating were black. So she had to shut down her dating because she didn't, you know, I'm going to assume she didn't want to date black dudes. She didn't want to accept the men that accept her, which shows the disparity in our community that, you know, black men are egalitarian and shit. Okay? You know, a lot of us have a scavenger mindset in the sexual marketplace, and that needs to stop. Okay? Now, I'm going to be harsh. I'm going to give this woman a harsh assessment and shit. I'm going to tell you that you are a 4. Okay? Top to bottom, you're a 4. Right? She has an okay face and everything, but the fact of the matter is, you know, if I could be nasty about it, she's blah. Okay, there's nothing about her that stands out, and her shoulders are the same width as her hips. I'm not calling her fat. She has no bust. She has a flat ass. She's probably a decent height. She has box braids. She has a well, you know, at least she's not wearing a blonde weave or nothing. That fucking baby hair weave I hate. But she's one of these people that has no backbone, you know, from what I can see, and struggles to fit in the crowd is because she's not selecting the black community, and she knows it. She knows that she could only be a bust down for Pookie and desperate, thirsty dudes or old sugar daddy guys that just want to get this shit wet. She tends to stay in her lane, which is being an NPC in the main, you know, the minority majorities diaspora, you know, in the white world, you know. Just stay there and play it safe, and she'll get set asides, and she'll be safe enough to promote and shit, and she'll have a certain sense of entitlement, but underlying bitterness that she truly does not measure up in her own ethnic community, which is at the bottom of the barrel in this construct, this social construct that, you know, we call America 3Ks instead. You know, I think she's full of shit. And her accent reads, you know, struggling. Okay? It's struggle cope. Right? It's struggle cope. And whenever she gets with any white dude, it's not gonna be a good looking white dude unless, I don't know. You know, things happen, right? You know, weird shit happens. You know, it's not the same experience she's talking about that, you know, I had and shit, okay? You know, people assume I'm that guy and shit when they hear my fucking actual speaking voice. They assume that, but then when they find out something else, become hostile. Okay? Like, the geek has always been the geek. Alright? It's always been that. And you can decide, listening to my motherfucking voice, altered or not, if I kept it real, if I kept it 100. And I kept 10 toes down and shit more than this female speaking right now, who did not admit that she doesn't measure up in our community and that the only thing she could possibly be to any brother is likely a Pookie is a stationary target and shit for the BBC, the eggplant. I ain't trying to shit on a woman, but you know, I just get tired of these throwing shade at black men because of their inadequacies dictated and shit, and the social engineering makes it impossible for them not to be negative and toxic and shit, passive aggressive, sociopathic, and dare I say narcissistic. Alright? I've seen a ton of videos on her page where she's just hanging out. She travels and she comes from some means, you know, some sort of means she can travel about in the world and everything. And she still hasn't found herself as a person. Shit. And it's not for me to judge that particular thing and shit. It's just that, you know, I wish they would leave the other half of the equation out of your self-delusion and your inadequacy issues and shit, you know? And since we're doing that, you know, I thought that this would be a perfect opportunity for a teachable moment, Kings. So, that being said, like I always say, keep your head on a swivel, protect the bag, and above all else, do not make fallen women the stewards of your family or the mothers of your children, because the children are your future, your legacy. All praise to the Most High.
The Black Patriarchy. A non-existent group of fictional black male power brokers not discredited, erroneously jailed or outright killed by the minority majority who look the other way as they work tirelessly to shame, oppress, and outright take out the altruistic black female populace of the honorable democratic United States of America. 3K's inset bitches. These evil wealthy members of the black patriarchy are the sole reason for all the ills of the black community, walking, talking, holding down jobs, and doing everything up to and including giving their very lives in service to their baby mamas and baby's motherfucking kids. Their motto that strikes fear into the hearts of black women everywhere: bitches ain't shit but hoes and tricks.